Said, please join me in welcoming my fellow New Yorker, Dr. Michael Baston.
Come on, let's give it up for our wonderful interns. Come on, clap your hands for the interns. Come on, UNCF, come on. You made it through the day. Come on, Career Pathways Initiative. Come on, make some noise in here. I'm excited tonight to talk with you for just a few moments, and I know that the fact that you all are now pressing through your day and you're now eating this sumptuous fare, that you just have a few more moments for me. So I'm going to ask that you swallow that last piece of filet mignon. Scoop out that last little bit of that sweet potato. And tonight is a wonderful opportunity for me to be with you because of your work, your effort, and the real important work that we must do together. The fact is, too many people who start college don't finish. The fact is, too many have hopes and dreams that are withering on the vine. The fact is, there's not enough clarity of purpose. The fact is, there's not enough clarity in terms of the ways in which we serve our students, and we serve the communities in which we are going to send them out into. So tonight, I want to title this conversation with you one that goes back to the words of Dr. King, the fierce urgency of now. Dr. King said these words: "We are now faced with the fact, my friends, that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is a thing as being too late. Procrastination is still the thief of time. Life often leaves us standing bare, naked, and dejected with a lost opportunity. The tide in the affairs of men does not remain at flood, it ebbs. We may cry out desperately for time to pause in her passage, but time is adamant to every plea and rushes on. Over the bleached bones and jumbled residues of numerous civilizations are written the pathetic words, too late. There is an invisible book of life that faithfully records our vigilance or our neglect. We are in a time in our country where we must work even the more to secure opportunities for economic mobility for our students, for our community, for our nation. And the words that Dr. King spoke about, he was talking about peace and justice and the need to make a world where everyone who starts out in life has the opportunity to climb to the highest heights. That is why I'm proud to be here with the Career Pathways Initiative, because of your commitment to some very clear principles that understanding the guided pathways approach makes sense for our schools. That there have to be curricular enhancements and an integrated co-curriculum where engagement allows students to contextualize that which they learn in the classroom so that they can make meaning with the things that will move them forward. In my own home state, I can tell you that this work is daunting but doable. In my college, LaGuardia Community College, where I'm transitioning from, we have seen great gains with programs like our accelerated study for our associate programs, where we get students with the clarity of a plan And we make sure that embedded in that plan is an exploration of those career opportunities. And we make sure that the funding is in place so that they can proceed, that they can succeed. And we have increased the rates of students who complete. And so in many institutions, when we think about community college success, we see so many students that don't finish what they start. But in our institutions, through our ASAP and other programs, we see that more than 50% of our students are able to complete what they start within 3 years. What that means for us is that we are continuing to shrink the amount of time it takes for students to finish what they start. We are making sure that students are purposefully connected to the kinds of educational experiences and the kinds of horizon-building opportunities that make their educational experience meaningful. You see, we are in a time of great challenge, and all of our institutions must think and begin with the end in mind. We must be purposely directing our educational efforts in strategic ways so that our students can reach the great goals that we have for them. I'm reminded of a poem entitled Everybody, Somebody, Anybody, and Nobody. The poem went like this. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Now, everybody thought that anybody could do it, but nobody realized everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. Today, as I stand before you, I recognize that we are somebody. We are the somebodies that know that the United Negro College Fund is changing lives, changing communities. We are the somebodies that know that you have helped to double more the number of minorities attending college, graduating nearly 500,000 students with college degrees. You are the somebodies that are making sure that they have those scholarship dollars so necessary to make access real. And you are the somebodies that are trying to improve graduation rates. The reality is we together must continue to be the somebodies that hold up the consciousness of the country that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Our college education is crucial if we are going to have those who are to lead our country forward, able and willing and capable to bear the heavy load of that future. And so I want to tell you just a few things about the trends that we see and why this is our time to move forward in this work. Of course, you know about globalization. We are operating in a world where boundaries don't exist. And as the beginning work that you did today made quite clear, technology is something we cannot shrink from. But it is also something that we must not let use us. We have to use the tools, and we must not allow ourselves to be so saturated with tools that we forget that higher education is still a personal enterprise about personal engagement that moves people forward. And in addition to globalization and mobility, this idea that we live in a connected world, and as long as you have access to the web, you can get the job done. What will that mean for how we structure courses and how we serve students in our colleges and how we actually get the payments for services that we provide on the internet? How are we going to engage our students when our students are engaging in new behaviors? We know that our students are living out loud on Facebook and Instagram and all these other places. Well, we cannot simply shake our head and say how terrible it is that they tell all their business. We've got to show them how to use the tool to brand themselves and to make them employable. because ultimately these new behaviors will be their success or their undoing. And so it's not just about technology, but it's also about this idea of demography, with our millennials continuing to move forward. And so we have to understand that millennials will make up 50% of the workforce by 2020, and that 75% by 2025. And older generations are retiring later, and many are becoming freelancers after they retire. I don't know if there's anybody in here around retirement age, but chances are even retirees won't be retiring long. And so our partners in workforce understand this. And our educational partners understand this, and the tech revolution understands this. There are many that understand the realities of these trends. I'm very pleased that you're working with the Education Design Lab, because their understanding of the learner-driven ecosystem is very important for us to keep at top of mind. And I know at the end of this convening, they will summarize this in a much more clear way. But I want to highlight before us the fact that in this learner revolution, in this learner-driven ecosystem, in this educational time where students see themselves more as consumers of an experience instead of just students sitting in a class, we have to understand exactly what's going on in their minds and their hearts and what they are thinking about in terms of their experience. They want to know that their credits are going to be portable, that they're going to be able to take those credits somewhere. They want to know that they are actually going to have skills and not just knowledge for knowledge's sake. They want to know that there is opportunities to really get experience and the kinds of things that allow competency-based education to receive credit. They want the coaching and those experiences because they recognize that they will move forward if they have the kinds of opportunities. And there are many edupreneurs that are using technology to promote some of these very, very systems that we're talking about. The importance of peer-facilitated learning and real-world learning labs and skill-specific academies and adaptive learning and feedback. What we do know is that learners are being listened to, and there are companies now that are actually industries coming up on the basis of what they hear from students. We cannot simply allow ourselves to cede to those companies the responsibility of listening to our students. We cannot cede to them the responsibility of helping the students bring it all together, because those tools can help. But what is most important is that there is a connection at our campuses that move those students forward. I listen to lots of students, and here are some of the things that students say in terms of what they're looking for as we design these experiences. Students, first, oftentimes our institutions think that this is the way students experience us. That they do their application, then they get their financial aid, then they take a placement test, and then they're advised, and then they register, then they have a nice little orientation, a kickoff, and the first day of class. Now, a lot of us think that that's how school is. And that's how it should be, right? Isn't it nice, orderly? When you came to the hotel today, you went to the front desk, and they were nice. They asked you for your little ID card. They got your little credit card for incidentals, and they showed you where your room was, right? It was nice and organized and neat, just like we administrators often think the process is, right? Here's how students experience us. I don't know if you've ever played. I know the CPI young people. Y'all never played this, and some of us. Y'all may be too young for this too. But anybody ever heard of pinball? Okay. In a pinball machine, it's this kind of little machine, right? And you pull the coil back, and you release the coil, and the ball is flown through the system, and there's tilts and ping, 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 with the goal of trying to get that little ball smacked around enough so that it ultimately doesn't fall through to the end. Remember pinball? That's how many of our students feel on our campuses. Because they come in one door and somebody then pulls the coil and knocks them to this location and that location. Well, but you got the right form, but you got the wrong place. Anybody? That is why you are here. That is why we are doing this work together. That is why we are trying to have a clarity in terms of path, so that this is not how students experience the college, because many of them don't stay because this is how they experience the college. Many of them no longer believe what you sold them in your beautiful brochure and how you loved on their parents when they came to your campus. Because too many of us think it's like this, and the students know it's like that. And so in these days that you are here in this convening, I want you to be thinking about the design work that is happening. I want you to be thinking about how we embed technology as a tool and not using technology to replace our common sense and thinking. I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to knock any of the vendors here. I love y'all vendors. We all love your vendors. But I'm here to tell you that some institutions just buy stuff thinking that stuff's going to solve the problems. But if you don't deal with your business practices, it doesn't matter how many tools that you buy. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. I'm going to tell you something else. Some of y'all have tools now, and you trying to figure out what you're going to do with the other stuff that was in the box with the stuff you thought you got. I bet you if I look at some of your little cable systems you set in your house, you got 100,000 channels and you only watch 3, right? You see, the reality is we need clarity. We need to design an experience for students that ultimately follows the path that they ought to be. And in Guided Pathway Schools, we understand the importance of the connection that we must make with students from the time that we are recruiting them until we get them through the process. We understand that when they come, that first year, that first semester, those first interactions matter. And that when they're beginning their journey with us is not the time for us to tell them someday you can go see career services. Because they are coming to your institutions because they have an end in mind, and they have to be checked at the very beginning, and level setting has to happen at the very beginning. So in this first year, they have to be able to start thinking about what that last year looks like, not starting to think about that in the last year. We've got to monitor the progress that they're making. We've got to know, and they've got to know, how they're moving through the system. And when there are problems, we don't wait and we don't try to remediate the problems after the fact, but we actually try to use metrics that show us the problems as they're becoming problems. Because if we are not tracking and we are not intervening and we are not strategically deploying resources, we will never have the students that start finish. Now, if there's anybody here that has 100% graduation rates, congratulations. All the people with 100% graduation rate, would you raise your hand? Okay. Now, all the people that want 100% graduation rates, now you raise your hand. So the people that raise their hands are responsible for helping that become the part of the solution. we got to make sure that our students complete, but not just to complete a degree, but to transition effectively into the world of work or into further graduate study or into other certificates that augment the degrees that we give them so they can have access to the middle class. Because if we're bringing them into poverty and we're putting them through an educational experience that leads them with jobs that are poverty-based jobs, we have not done them any good. And so what that means is this, that we have to have clear roadmaps to student goals, that we have to have an intake that's redesigned as an on-ramp so that our intake processes actually have to make sure that students are moving forward. That means that student progress has to be tracked closely. That means that learning outcomes have to be aligned across programs. That means that students have to have an experience that makes sense. Because guess what? You want an experience that makes sense. In everything that you spend your hard-earned money on, you have an expectation of an excellent experience. Our students have the right to that same expectation. We cannot simply be okay with random acts of excellence. We need to stop the churning. We don't need them to come in and come out of the school. We need them to finish what they start. We don't need them to transfer early. We need them to complete, and not with a whole lot of credits that ultimately don't transfer somewhere else into a larger degree. We need to make sure that they're not paying for things that they can't use. We need to shorten the time to them completing their degrees. And of course, through it all, through the work that we are doing in these couple of days, we have to focus on building their skills. If we build their skills, we will help them build a sustainable life. We will help them build the life that they are entitled to. And when we help them build the life that they are entitled to, it has the benefit of lifting the nation, of strengthening the nation, of making the nation live up to its promises. So what do students say? Students tell us that personal connections matter, that their relationships with their faculty, their staff, and fellow students are essential. Students value having a sense of belonging and someone who believes in them. It's our responsibility to make sure on our campuses, as we do this work of career pathway development, it's our responsibility to make sure that personal connections are embedded in this experience. High expectations matter. Students say that they want to be held to high expectations because that can drive them to excel. And they want to know that their college faculty and staff believe in them and believe that they can reach those goals. And so it's our responsibility in any of the work that we do to ensure that high expectations are set. Instructor quality matters because students know whether instructors are engaged or going through the motions. And they highly value faculty members who show interest in them and who demonstrate a commitment to helping them learn. So I don't care what approach you take, that approach has to ensure that the instructors really have quality. And of course, engagement matters. We want students to be engaged in the kinds of things that allow them to make meaning from what they're learning. Because ultimately, just like the interns that are participating in this program, they are making meaning from every experience, every conversation they have with you, every person that they listen to who is making a presentation, every way in which they watch you plan and design activities. They are learning themselves how to be better professionals. I applaud you for including them in this conversation. And so the reality is in the redesign work that we're doing in our community colleges, it's really based on 4 simple principles. And those principles really resonate with what you're doing here. First, we believe in mapping paths to student end goals. We believe that academic programs should be mapped in such a way so that what students begin, that there's coherence. When students begin, there's a clear direction to something greater than what they started. We believe, secondly, that we have to help students get on a path. And that means helping students to do enough exploration so that once they connect to a thing of interest, that they have the pathway to actually complete that. We believe, number 3, in keeping students on the path. And that means you have to know how they're progressing through your systems. And lastly, we believe in ensuring that students are learning. It's not enough to believe they're learning. We have to know that they're learning and how they can actually move that forward. So those are the 4 tenets of our redesign work that we're doing in the community college space. And when I take those 4 tenets, get them in, keep them in, teach them something, make sure they go. That's what it is. That's what it is. Get them in, keep them in, teach them something, and make sure they go somewhere. That's you. Guided pathways, co-curricular enhancements, integrated co-curriculum engagement. Get them in, keep them in, make sure they're learning something, get them out. Sound familiar? That is what these days are. That is what you've started on today. That is what will happen over the next 2 days. But I want you to know, as I get ready to sit down, that there are these things that matter most to me. Every single student I come in contact with, I ask them their GPA. Every single student that I come in contact with, I ask them their GPA. I do not ask them their grade point average. I ask them these questions. What's your goal? What's your plan? What actions are you taking? What's your goal? What's your plan? What actions are you taking? Every single student, I don't care what approach you take in this work, you must help students decide on a goal. You must help them as they make a plan, and you must question them about the actions that they are taking to accomplish that plan. Now, you do not have to be the president, the provost, the chief of the board. You can be the person who's the security person. You can be working in the cafeteria. Anybody who actually cares about students can ask that student their GPA. And I promise you, if we ask students the GPA, students should also be able to ask you your GPA. Students should be able to say, what is the goal of this institution for my future? Students should be able to say, what plans have you made to ensure that the goal you have for my future is going to come to pass? And can I see your actions? Because once we hold students accountable, we empower students to hold us accountable. There has been too much conversation about whether students are college ready. The conversation in this generation has to be, is the college student ready? Has the college created the structures, the systems, the platforms, the practices that make it a place where those students are nurtured and cared for and loved and attended to? And we are now in a place, my friends, where it's never been more urgent for us to stand up for our students and stand up for our communities and stand up for our institutions to do great things, because if not you, then who? So I stand here quite proud tonight, having seen your agenda and knowing what's ahead in these next days. I stand very hopeful tonight. I stand knowing that each of you will go back to your campuses around this country. I stand proud tonight knowing that you will go and check yourselves and you'll check the students. I know that you will come with goals and plans and actions, and I know that you will be the answer to the questions of the future of the young people of this country. I know you will, because I know this convening, when we leave here just a few days from now, we will not have on our epitaph the pathetic words, "Too late." Thank you very much.
Dr. Baston.